Hey guys, how you doing? Today's video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Gyre XF230 that I'm running on my tank and the process I go through to cleaning them. Now, I'm running two of these on my Red Sea Reefer 350, which is a 4-foot tank, and I gotta say I absolutely love them. However, the one issue I find with this pump is that it gets affected by coralline algae and just general algae growth a lot more than pumps I've used in the past. Now, I've used Vortex pumps, I've used Tunzi pumps, I've used Coralia pumps, I've used a couple of other pumps, but this pump needs to be cleaned more often. In my experience, it needs to be cleaned more often than other pumps I've used. So let me go through and tell you a little bit about this. Now, it's been about 3.5–4 months since the last cleaning, and you can see my toadstool coral is about just a few inches away from the pump, and the pump is running at 70% right now. And you can see how, the polyps are, well, the polyps, you're getting movement on the polyps, but it's not what you would expect if a coral is just a few inches away from a pump and it's running at 70%. My Euphilia garden is about a foot away from the pump, less than a foot away from the pump. And you can see that after a few months of the pumps running and not being cleaned, you can see that while you get a nice little, gentle flow, but something that's about a foot away from a gyre running at 70%, you expect to see more flow than this. This is my stylophora getting a gentle breeze, gentle flow, but for me, this was the best indication that my pumps needed servicing because that coral used to be blasted with flow. It needs more flow. So here are the tools I use to clean. I use the brush on the left is a thick brush, is a brush that has really coarse bristles that are used to get the hard algae off. I use a toothbrush so I can get into some of the nooks and crannies to get some of the softer algae off. I use some vinegar, some white vinegar to soak it in to get some of the coralline algae off. And I use a bucket. And you don't really need to use RODI water when washing your pumps. I know some people do, I have friends that do, but regular old water and a bucket. You'll definitely need a bucket. So depending on how stuck on the algae is, you'll need to maybe soak the pumps just a few hours to maybe overnight. So in this instance, I have it soaking about 3 to 4 hours. You can see the water there's a little bit murky, but that's okay. I dropped a MaxiJet 600 pump just to, provide flow, keep the water moving. I feel that this loosens up the coralline algae a little bit faster, but just giving it a soak, you don't need a power head in the bucket. Just give it a good soak for a couple of hours. Should be enough to loosen off the algae. This is when the real work begins. You have to take this pump apart, and I gotta say, this second generation of gyre is a lot better than the first generation. The first generation, when I took it apart the first time to clean it, I never got it working properly again. It had a bunch of little bearing parts that were hard to put back together. I ended up selling it to somebody. I could never get it to work again. But while this second generation gyre has a good amount of parts compared to, let's say, a Tunzi or Vortex, it was a lot easier. So MaxSpec did a better job of, making this pump easier to clean, easier to take apart, and easier to put back together. Now, while I'm running two of these pumps on my tank, I don't clean both of them at the same time. So when I have one off the tank, I'll still need one to provide flow, and it's a good opportunity to sort of clean the area where the pump was. Now, I usually diligent about cleaning the glass, but that area where the pump is, it doesn't get cleaned that often, so a lot of times it has this stuck on algae. And I have this scraper from BRS that uses razor blades, and it's really good. You have to replace the blades, very often, but this blade is really good of getting that really stuck on algae that can get on the glass if it hasn't been cleaned in some time. And here I have one pump cleaned and one pump is still dirty. So I'm showing you the dirty pump. The pump is running again at 70%, and you can see that toadstool isn't really moving much. It's still getting some flow, but just a few inches away, it's not getting much flow. And in a second here, we're going to move over to the other side of the tank where you'll see how, the flow is different. Both pumps are connected to the same controller, running at the same percentage, but you'll see the difference when one pump is clean and one pump's been going about 3.5 to 4 months without any cleaning at all. So after I cleaned the second pump, you can see that the toadstool really didn't like the extra flow it was getting. So I ended up having to turn the pumps down. In fact, I had to turn them down a lot. So I went from running them from about 70% to running them at about 20 to 30%. So that's how much the flow, the performance of the pump went down. I went from running it at about 60 to 70% to down about 20 to 30. So that's 50%. So, these pumps really, the performance, you get better performance when you clean them regularly. And I know that, you should perform regular maintenance on your pumps, but a lot of us don't. And like I said, I've run tons of these before. We have gone 6, 8 months, maybe a year before a proper cleaning, and they still kept on moving. So I love my gyres. I'm not going to get rid of them, but it's just that they require, a little bit more love and maintenance than maybe other pumps. This is that same stylophora coral now that we saw earlier in the video. Same area. You can see the difference now. The polyps are just waving in the flow, so it does make a difference. So you can see how after the pumps has been cleaned, we now have a standing wave in the tank. I'm trying to keep this video short. Take care, guys. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and look out for more videos. Thank you. Peace.